webinars. We are starting this case presentation webinars to help you in the practical exam of final MBBS surgery. As you all know that you have not been able to attend the ward this year, and so you haven't faced the semester exam, the ward ending exam, and all these things which actually prepare you for the final exam. So not being able to sit for semesters and ward endings and other internal university exams, you won't realize this now, but it can be detrimental before appearing for the final exam. And that is why we have thought of conducting these webinars. We'll try to conduct them twice a month to help you with various important cases and their presentations, so that it gives sort of a real feel, a mock sort of for the final actual exam. Today we have one of our subscribers, Dipannita. She is from North Bengal Medical College, West Bengal, and she was assigned a case this morning. So we have tried to keep this thing as real as possible. So she did not know what case would be allotted. I mean, she was sort of given, because since the academic year is still not over, she was given a few say chapters or topics, suppose breast, hernia, hepatobiliary, pancreatic, etc. And she sort of prepared those topics. But today morning, she was assigned a case. So we'll be showing you the case soon. And after that, she was asked to take relevant history. So she was supposed to message in the message section of her page, of her Facebook page. And there she got all the answers that she needed for presenting the case. So now let's look at the case that she was assigned. So yes. So this is the
Good
case
evening,
that was,
sir.
Yeah, good evening. So this is the case that was
Should I
assigned to her.
start?
Yeah, just a sec. Let me just read out the case. So this case was assigned to her, a middle-aged woman presents with a hard lump of 4 centimeter into 3 centimeter on the upper outer quadrant of the right breast. There are no skin changes over the lump and no nipple discharge at present. Axillary lymph nodes, it would be axillary, sorry for the typo there. Axillary lymph nodes are not palpable. So please ask relevant history and prepare your case sheet accordingly. So here we are going to test the case presentation. That is, after you will be assigned a case, you are going to conduct the history and the physical examination and everything, and then you are supposed to write them in your answer sheet. After that, the examiner is going to approach and he will be taking away your answer sheet. So you have to practice presenting the case without looking at your sheet. Okay. And then the examiner is going to ask you relevant questions or whatever he feels like, he or she feels like. So facing that examiner is a big challenge, and that is why I think facing so many unknown people here in the webinar will also sort of provide the same challenge. And we really appreciate Dipannita for signing up for this first webinar. So okay, so over to you, Dipannita. Please begin.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, sir, and good evening, all present. I was assigned case number 1. So I'll begin with my case now. My patient, a 45-year-old Hindu lady who is a housewife and who comes from Malda district of West Bengal, was admitted to the hospital on the 26th of this month and examined today, that is on 30th. She presented with the chief complaint of a swelling in the upper part of her right breast near the axilla since the last 2 months. Coming to the history of present illness, the patient was apparently well 2 months back when she noticed a swelling in her right breast in the upper part near the axilla. The swelling was insidious in onset and it has grown progressively since then. The swelling is associated with pain at night since the last 2 weeks. This pain is not very severe and it subsides when the patient lays down. There is no associated skin changes over the swelling. There is no other swelling anywhere in her body. The patient, and there is the patient is a known case of hypertensive, and she takes medications for the same. There is no history of trauma to her right breast. There is no history of any back pain or any other bone pain or any seizures or any other uh, abdominal discomfort, except that the patient experiences slight bloating and pain in the abdomen since the last 5 years, for which she takes antacids every morning. Coming to history of past illness, there has not been any such similar episodes in the past. However, the patient has been admitted to the hospital for 3 times, twice for her delivery and once because of her diarrhea. And she also underwent a sterilization surgery after her second child was born. Coming to drug history, the patient consumes Stamlo 5 regularly, and there is no other history of drug consumption. Coming to allergy history, the patient is allergic to brinjals. Coming to personal history, the bladder, bowel, appetite of the patient are normal. However, because of some anxiety related to the diagnosis of her case, she has been disturbances in her sleep since the last 2 months because she is apprehensive. Coming to her menstrual history, age of menarche 12 years, she has not attended menopause yet, and she has no other complaints regarding her menstrual cycle. Coming to obstetric history, she has 2 children. Her age when her first child was born was 22 years. She has breastfed all her children, and there is no other history of any other obstetric illness. Coming to family history, there are 5 members in her family and all of them are doing well. There is no history of any tumor or any cancer in any of her family members, especially on her maternal side. Coming to now coming to the examination part. First, there was the general examination. Starting with the general survey, the patient was alert, conscious, cooperative, and oriented to time and place. Her pulse rate was 77 beats per minute. Her blood pressure was 90 by 65 mmHg. Her build was normal. Her neck glands were not palpable and there was no other abnormality detected. Coming to local examination. Starting with inspection. The patient was inspected with her hands by the side, with her hands raised above her head and with her hands pressing on the hip on instructions of the examiner. First, both the breasts were inspected for size, shape, symmetry, and no abnormality was detected. There was no abnormality detected in the nipple areola complex of both the breasts. There was no discharge from the nipples. There was no abnormality detected in the arms or the thorax. And the lump was visible on the right outer quadrant. Coming to palpation. First, the normal breast was palpated, which is a left breast, along with the axillary lymph nodes of the left side, and no abnormality was detected in her left breast, and no lymph node was palpable in her left axilla. Coming to the right side, the patient, a lump was detected in the upper outer quadrant of the right breast. The lump was approximately 4 centimeter into 3 centimeter in size. It was hard in and had irregular margins and the surface was smooth. The lump was not associated with any secondary skin changes such as ulceration or any other discharge. The local temperature of the lump was same as that of the surrounding breast tissue, and the lump was non-tender. The lump was not fixed to the skin. The lump was not fixed to the chest wall or the breast tissue. The lump was also not fixed to the underlying muscles or fascia. After this, her axilla was examined, and there was no palpable lymph node in her right axilla, and there was no other abnormality detected while examination, or neither any other lump was detected apart from this one. After this, the patient, after this, coming to the summary of the case, a 45-year-old Hindu lady who was examined today presented with the chief complaint of a lump in the in her right breast in the upper part. This lump was not associated with pain initially. However, there has been a complaint of slight pain since the last 2 weeks. There was no history of trauma or any other problem. On examination, a 4 centimeter into 3 centimeter palpable lump was found in the upper outer quadrant of the right breast. The lump was non-tender and it was not fixed to the skin or breast tissue or underlying chest wall or underlying muscles. And there were no palpable axillary lymph nodes and there was no discharge from nipple. Coming to provisional diagnosis, this is probably a case of carcinoma of the right breast. Coming to differential diagnosis, had there been a history of trauma, a differential diagnosis could have been a traumatic fat necrosis. Coming to investigations to be done, since the lady is above 40 years of age, we will advise her to undergo mammography followed by histopathological examination with FNAC and core needle biopsy. Thank you, sir. I've finished.
Thank you, Dipanita. So before I come back to you for the Viva part, I would like to share the history that you had elicited via the chat so that everyone understands sort of how it's going to be taken. And I want to highlight some points here. So, yeah. So the first question on the first screenshot at the bottom, you can see that she has started with the name, age, etc. So the patient particulars. So nothing to discuss in that as such. You can just ask about the name, the age, the occupation, residential address, etc. Then the main part is eliciting the chief complaint. So as you can see, I would like to highlight some areas here. You can, we would be sharing this history thing with you after the webinar. Some things that I want to highlight is that number one is a patient sometimes complain of other things. For example, if you can see in the second screenshot at the bottom, she is saying that sometimes there is pain at night and I also suffer from pain in the abdomen and bloating sensation. So these kinds of vague complaints, if you are so, you are asking a patient on the day of your exam and she would be like overjoyed to have you by her side for 40 to 45 minutes. And she would start complaining about each and everything that she feels like sometimes. So what we need to be careful about is that we should only focus on the relevant part here. So pain in abdomen, bloating sensation, it may be useful, of course, but in a lot of cases, it is not relevant with our particular case. So that is one thing. The second thing is that in the last screenshot of this slide, you can see that she has again asked from when did the abdominal pain and bloating start. And the patient is saying that she has it since last 5 years. Whereas you can see that she noticed the swelling 2 months back, didn't pay any attention to it. And after 1 month, since she noticed an increase in size, she came to the surgery OPD. And she uses antacid tablets for relief of this bloating sort of pain. So we can sort of be sure here that this is something not relevant for our case, and we would not proceed in detail about this bloating sensation as such. So moving on to the next part, as you can see that she has asked about the swelling, and she has very uh, rightly, correctly asked that if there is any swelling in other part of the body. So in cases of breast, we should definitely ask about the axilla, and in examination also we should definitely examine the axilla. So I have mentioned this in my examination of breast also, in the video of examination of breast also, which is there on the app, that if you are examining a patient of breast, never forget the axilla and both the axilla. It's not that she has a lump on the right breast, so you're just going to examine the right breast and the right axilla. So you have to examine the left breast, you have to examine the left axilla as well. So in history also, you need to ask about these relevant things, which Viparnita has very correctly said, that whether she has any secondary changes over the skin, whether she has any similar swelling in the past or had any similar swelling in the past, whether she has noticed any weight loss. Now here again, I would like to mention that when she has been asked about weight loss, she has said that I do not have any weighing machine at home, right? So you can't just leave it there. So you have to ask about other things, like did your friends or family members say that you have lost weight, or did your regular use garments have become loose or not? So a lot of times patients can understand that they are losing weight, a lot of weight, significant weight loss, if the daily garments that they use have become loose. So that is one uh, you know, indirect way of asking whether the patient has weight loss or not. Next, she has asked about some features like bone pain, back pain, cough, and bleeding. So what do you think it is for? Yes, it is for any metastasis, any features of any secondary. So as you know, breast cancer spreads to the bones and most commonly to the vertebra, and it can also metastasize to the lungs, leading to hemoptysis. So that is why bleeding associated with coughing, back pain, bone pain, etc. These things are important in history, which she has quite correctly asked. Next, she has asked about diabetes, hypertension, etc. Now here, since we are conducting this in English, it would have been better if we could have used local languages. But India has a lot of languages, so it's maybe not possible to conduct webinars in each and every language. But in your exam, you have to ask the patient in the local language, right? And be careful about this. Please don't use medical terms like diabetes, hypertension, etc. because a lot of times patients will not understand what you're talking about. So we use terms like pressure, sugar, etc. So it's better to stick to those layman terms when taking history. So here we are going to ignore that fact because it's on chat and it's not live, and we have to do this in English for the benefit of everyone. Next, I would like to point out one thing, that the patient is saying a trade name here, Stamlo 5, but in the presentation, when you are presenting the case to the examiner, it's better that you say amlodipine if you know what Stamlo is. If you don't know, then you can of course ignore this point, but it's better to stick to generic names for avoiding controversies and stuff. Next, she has been asked whether she has suffered from any major illness or whether she has been admitted. She is saying that she has been admitted 2 times for delivery and 1 time for diarrhea. So you know, this history is not as such relevant for us, because if she had been admitted for any major disease, any major surgery, or any breast procedure, then it would have been relevant. So it's just good to mention this in one line and not, highlight or expand this point. Next, as she's a female, it's very important in female that you ask about the birth history and about the menstrual history, which she has asked. So let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay. So next, she has been asked about personal history like bladder, bowel, sleep, appetite. And here I want to highlight one point, is that she has said in the second screenshot, you can see that she is saying that she doesn't get good sleep at night. And Vipanita has asked since when, and the patient is saying after someone told me this can be cancer. So So when you are examining this sort of patient who might be a patient of cancer, these patients, a lot of patients know actually that they might be diagnosed or they have been diagnosed with cancer, and they suffer from a lot of anxiety. So it's quite natural. And the good thing that she has done, as you can see in the chat, is that she has said, please don't worry. Whatever the diagnosis, a lot of treatment options are available these days. So it is very important that we reassure the patient, that we console the patient. Okay, it's not a good thing to let the patient be afraid of this disease and all. And we always have to reassure the patient and say that everything is fine. Next, addiction history. So here she has said that please don't mind me asking this question, because a lot of times, especially women, they get offended if you ask about addiction history. Men usually don't bother, but you know, women sort of get quite sensitive when we ask whether you smoke or you uh, drink alcohol. So you have to be careful about these things. These are social aspects in our country, especially. So you have to be careful when eliciting these kinds of history. Next is normal history like child history, birth history, breastfeeding, important in a case of breast, then age of child and age of the mother when the first child was born. So I've talked in theory in my video on breast about the risk factors of carcinoma breast, and there you have seen that early menarche, late menopause. So the time in which the patient is exposed to estrogen is very important. It's a very important risk factor for breast cancer, and that is why this history is especially important in case of breast. So next, family history. And in family history, I would like to mention that the patient has said that her father-in-law has died due to lung cancer, and this is not relevant because father-in-law is not as such a blood relation. So cancer history in family, if father-in-law is involved or any non-blood relation involved, it's not relevant. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So lastly, she has been asked about the maternal side, because breast cancers can be hereditary, BRCA1, BRCA2. We have studied about these things in theory. So she has no history of that thing. And lastly, you thank the patient and you end the history. So we'll be sending you the history part, of course, but I hope you have appreciated the history properly. Next is the case sheet which she has prepared. So let us have a look at what a case sheet should look like in your exam. Yeah, so this is the case sheet. So can we just zoom out a little bit? Yeah. So patient particulars, she has written name, age, sex, religion, marital status, occupation, residence, date of admission, date of examination, and bed number if it's allotted in the exam. Chief complaint, swelling in the upper part of right breast near axilla since last 2 months. So there was just one chief complaint in this patient. So it should be chief complaint and not complaints ideally. So these are some minor things. Next is history of present illness, and you know that chief complaint should be written in chronological manner. So if she had like swelling since last 2 months and maybe pain since last 1 month, then the number 2 should be pain because it's for last 1 month, and the swelling should be for last 2 months. But this patient has not complained of any significant pain or any discharge or any other swellings, etc. So it's just one chief complaint here. Next is history of present illness. So this is basically elaboration of the chief complaint, and we will be also sharing this with you for your analysis, and we will be providing these kinds of model history sheets to our subscribers soon, as requested by one of our user. So we'll be doing that soon, so that you can have an idea of how your answer sheet should look like in the final exam, because books and other things don't have this as such. They just give you a basic idea, but having this real thing with you should help you in having an idea about the case sheet of the real exam. So let's move on to the next page. So yeah, so this is the expansion of the chief complaint, basically relevant things asked. Next is past history. So while presenting the case, Dipanita had said history of past illness. That's not the term we should use. It should be past history. So these things happen, and this is why, is getting live or facing the examiner, these things are important. You know that it is past history. She has also written past history, but while uh, presenting the case in front of so many people, unknown people, uh, it happens. Like I can also suddenly stop speaking if I get nervous. So these things are quite natural, and this is why you should practice before facing the exam, especially examiner, especially because you haven't been in practice this year. So past history, drug history, history of allergy, personal history, bladder, bowel, appetite. Appetite should be double P. Okay, so spelling mistakes should be avoided ideally. Next, menstrual history, important for women. Obstetrics history, number of children. Yes, here one of the mistakes that a lot of people do is that they write something G2 or things like that. The actual thing is that you cannot write G something if the patient is not pregnant. So we mentioned this gravida, this G thing in gynecology, that is in obstetrics only, when the patient is pregnant. For example, if a woman has 2 children at home and she is pregnant for the third time, then she is going to be G3. I mean, not only 2 children at home, that is, she has been pregnant for 3 times, and she is pregnant currently, counting the last one, that should be G3. So a patient of CA breast or any female patient in surgery who is not pregnant, please don't write G. It should not be ideally done. So you should write about number of living issues or number of children, age of the patient during her first childbirth, and maybe age of the youngest child should be mentioned also. Maybe she has mentioned it later. So that indicates till, what was her last sort of birth, what was her last reproductive age, and for how long she has been in this phase of post, without children and breastfeeding and sort of thing. So next is family history. So that's normal. So you just ask about members in family and any relevant family history. Next is examination. So this is important, examination. So as she has described, and as I have mentioned in the video of breast exam in the app, so you should follow the protocol of examination by the side, by the arms raised, by the arms on the hips and the patient bending forwards. And then you should write about these things. While presenting, I think Dipandita started with the left breast and then presented the right breast. But it's preferable that since you have the pathology in the right breast, uh, you should start with the right breast, preferably, because the main pathology is in the right breast. So the examiner is actually interested in hearing about that breast, not the other one. But definitely, you should mention the that is the other breast in any bilateral organ. You should mention about the other organ also. Uh, Next, axillary, next in palpation, of course, left breast and right breast. So here also, right breast should be written and mentioned first because it has the lump. The left breast is normal. So you write about the situation, you write about the size and shape. So the shape should be ideally measured by calipers. If you don't have calipers or measuring tape, then you can write approximately. So you should have a visual sort of an idea, visual idea of measurements. So let's move on. Okay, so fixated to the skin, any abnormal nipple discharge, these are important points. Next is examination of lymph nodes, very important, axillary lymph nodes, bilateral, you should palpate, and they are not palpable in this case. And then general examination or general survey. Uh, Here, yes, everything appears to be normal. Next is the summary. So sometimes the examiners are interested in the summary because they don't have this much time to listen to so many things and go through the sheet of so many students. So the summary is very important. So in summary, you should write in short everything, every relevant thing that you have found out in the patient. So here, as you can see, that there is no mention of any bloating or there is no mention of any allergy to brinjals, etc., because those are not that relevant in summary. So the summary should contain only the important things. For example, the lump in the right breast since last 2 months, non-hypertensive because that's a comorbidity, never suffered from similar illness, no history of trauma because traumatic fat necrosis is a differential diagnosis. So that is also a history. I think I forgot to mention in the history part, she has asked that whether the patient has suffered from any recent trauma to the breast or not. So the provisional diagnosis is carcinoma of the right breast. So be careful which breast you're writing about. And then you can write differential and investigations. You may not. It depends. It varies from examiner to examiner. It varies from university to university. Okay, so we are done with this case sheet and the history. I wanted to show this to you. Now let's move on to the viva that the examiner is going to sort of ask in the real exam after you finish presenting the case. So the first thing is that you have already said that this is a case of carcinoma of right breast. So why do you think so? Why do you think it's a carcinoma of right breast?
Sir, first, I think this is a carcinoma of right breast because of certain features of the lump, like consistency, which was hard, the margins were irregular, and the shape and the surface was also uneven. The patient also said that there is slight weight loss, and considering her age, that she is above 45 years, so the risk of carcinoma increases in female as the age increases. And I did not consider the other differential diagnosis, that is traumatic fat necrosis, because there was no history of trauma to the right breast recently.
Okay. According to the history and clinical examination, what TNM stage do you think the patient is in clinically?
TNM stage, sir, the tumor was of approximately of the size 4 centimeter into 3 centimeter. So this puts the tumor in the stage T2, more than 2 centimeter, less than 5 centimeter. End staging, sir, no node was palpable clinically, so it will be N0, and then M0 because there was no history suggestive of metastasis. No back pain, no seizures, no abdominal pain, no jaundice, no other bone pain, etc.
Right. So this is T2 N0 M0 clinically. So we don't know about mets as yet. This is just from the history. And if the mass is like this, say it's 4 centimeter into 3 centimeter, then which measurement do you actually consider? I mean, suppose a mass is
So the
6
larger
centimeter.
one, 4
Yeah. Suppose a mass is 6 centimeter into 3 centimeter. In that case, even if the even if we have 3 centimeter, but since we have 6, which is more than 5, the
it will be
yeah, it will
T3.
be T3, right? So what do you want to do with the patient now? She has presented with a mass of this sort. So what do you want to do now?
Sir, I would like to do some investigations. In case of breast, history and clinical examination which was done. Now there will be some radiological investigations. Since the patient is above 40 years, we will do a mammography, and then after that we will do histopathological examination with either a FNSC or core needle biopsy. The core needle biopsy being preferable because it can differentiate between invasive carcinoma and carcinoma in situ. So after the results, we will plan the treatment accordingly. Since it is in T2 stage, we can go for breast conservation surgery along with radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and if the hormone receptors are positive, we can also use some treatment like that.
Right. So we should also carry out the hormone status in investigation, right? The immunohistochemistry part. So that is also important in breast. So yes. So what is triple assessment of breast lump?
Triple assessment of breast lump. Whenever we have a case of breast lump, we examine it in 3 steps. First, we take the history and the clinical examination. Second, we do some radiological investigations. We do mammography when age is more than 40 years, and if less, then we go for MRI. And then we do histopathological examination with excision
MRI.
biopsy, FNSC. Sorry, sir, USG.
Right.
Sorry, sir. And then we go for histopathological examination using FNSC or core needle biopsy or excision biopsy.
Okay. So that is triple assessment. So when why do we carry out USG and mammography this age of 40 and this sort of thing? Why is USG done at younger age and why is mammography done at an older age?
Sir, in a younger female, the breast is very dense and it's difficult to pick up microcalcifications in mammography. But so USG is a very good investigation, and as the age progresses, since the breast becomes less dense, so the abnormality can be very nicely picked up in a mammography. And in mammography, the radiation is also low, so we prefer that after 40 years.
What is the radiation dose in mammography?
Sir, I forgot.
Okay, it's 0.1 centigrade. So it's very low, so it's safe also. And you mentioned about MRI. So when do we carry out MRI in breast?
MRI in breast for screening of high risk cases, that is the familial cancers or with genetic mutations from age less than 25 years, to differentiate between scar versus recurrence, because soft tissue is very nicely seen in MRI. In pregnancy, sir, I know these only.
Okay, and in a patient with breast implant.
Breast implant, yes, sir.
So, okay, so we are done with investigation. So we suppose this patient, we find out on investigation that she is ERPR positive, HER2 negative, and it is T2N0M0, then like it's clinically also, it's radiologically also proved to be of this stage. So then what do we carry out?
Sir, we will do breast conservation surgery in this lady, and then radiotherapy with it. Since it's ERPR positive, we can use hormonal therapy. Now, since she's pre-menopausal, we will use selective estrogen receptor modulators. We can use tamoxifen 20 milligram once daily for 5 years, or we can also use raloxifene. Sir, we go for breast conservation surgery, and after that, radiotherapy.
Okay, so in breast conservation surgery, are we going to just remove the tumor and then shut it off, or we want to proceed for something else?
No, sir, in breast conservation surgery, we will remove the skin overlying the tumor and also the nipple areola complex, and we will also go for axillary dissection.
Okay, why not sentinel lymph node biopsy?
Yes, sir, we have to also go for sentinel lymph node biopsy because this is clinically node negative.
Exactly. So since this is a clinically negative axilla, we just cannot carry out axillary dissection because axillary dissection has a lot of side effects. So we would like to carry out a breast conservation surgery, and after we are done with that procedure, we carry out a sentinel lymph node biopsy. So, what is a sentinel lymph node?
The sentinel lymph node is the first lymph node that drains the area of the carcinoma.
So, what is the concept here?
So the concept is that if the carcinoma has spread to the sentinel lymph node, then we need to do axillary dissection because it will further transmit to the other nodes. But if it has not spread to the first draining node itself, then there is no need for axillary dissection because it's associated with comorbidity, especially given along with radiotherapy.
Right. So how do we carry out sentinel lymph node dissection? You can just mention it in short, like what we use.
Okay, sir. First, we inject a dye. It may be a blue colored dye or some radio labeled dye. We use methylene blue in blue colored dye, or we can use radio labeled albumin or technetium 99 labeled colloid sulfur. We inject it into the sub areolar plexus. After this, we check for either the color if we have used a colored dye, or we check for the radioactivity using a handheld gamma camera and if it's found that the lymph node takes up the dye, or no, sorry, sir. We will locate the lymph node. Then we will take a biopsy specimen. Then we will give it to the pathologist. We will wait in the OT table till the pathologist will examine the specimen in real time. If the pathologist says that yes, the lymph node has been invaded, it's positive, then we go for axillary dissection. If the pathologist says that it is negative, we do not dissect the axilla.
Right. So what is this taking out of this thing and sending it to pathology? What is this known as? I mean, the tissue that we are
Frozen
sending.
section.
Yeah. It's frozen section. So we get a call from the pathology lab that it's either positive or it's negative, and we proceed accordingly. Till then, we wait in the OT with the patient, like under general anesthesia and all. So okay, so that is done. So after breast conservation surgery, and suppose we didn't have to dissect the axilla, so we move to radiotherapy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And then what about chemotherapy?
Chemotherapy, sir, we can give if axillary lymph nodes come out to be positive.
Okay, what are the regimens that are commonly used in breast cancer?
Cyclophosphamide, adriamycin, and 5-fluorouracil. If the patient has some cardiac problem, we cannot use adriamycin, so we use other regimens. Sir, I don't remember the drugs, but there will be cyclophosphamide and 5-fluorouracil along with another drug.
Yeah, that is methotrexate. So
Methotrexate,
CAF is CAF
and
is one
CEF was
regimen.
also there.
Yeah, etoposide. So yeah, adriamycin is a trade name. What is the actual name of the
Doxorubicin.
antineoplastic? Yeah. Okay. So we are done with chemo, and if the ERPR is positive, then we have to use hormonal therapy as mentioned by you. What if HER2/neu is positive?
If HER2, we can use Herceptin, and if CERB2 is positive, we can also use trastuzumab.
Trastuzumab is actually Herceptin. Herceptin is again a trade name. Yeah, so that is actually quite a popular trade name like Xerox. So, well, you can of course say Herceptin, so you can remember it with HER2/neu. But it is basically trastuzumab. It's mAb, that is, it's a monoclonal antibody. Yeah. So, what is triple negative breast cancer?
Triple negative breast cancer. So ER negative, PR negative, HER2/neu negative, and Ki67 positive.
Yeah, so triple negative means we have to mention 3 points like ER, PR, and HER2/neu. So if they are negative, then it is triple negative breast cancer, and the prognosis is
bad.
Yeah. Okay, so what is BIRADS?
BIRADS is a system used. Sir, I'm forgetting the full form: breast imaging and radiological. Sir, it's used for grading the findings in mammography, USG, or MRI. And it, along with the grade, it tells the prognosis or the chance of the case to be malignant, and also the time of follow-up. BIRADS 0 means the sample.
It's okay. You don't have to say the whole BIRADS thing. So BIRADS is basically breast imaging, reporting, and data system. Okay, so that is BIRADS. And what is BIRADS 2?
BIRADS 2. It's a benign lesion, and it's a benign lesion. BIRADS 2.
What should we do if we get BIRADS 2?
We should go for normal screening as we do, depending on the age of the patient. Normal, sir, in breast cancer we go for screening in normal population, whether when there is no risk of familial cancer or genetic risk, we go for annual screening of the patient with mammography when the patient is more than 40 years of age. In case of genetic mutations in the patient, we start screening the patient from 30 years of age, from 25 years of age using MRI, and from 30 years we use both MRI and mammography. In case there is a history of familial carcinoma in a patient, we start screening the patient from 35 years of age annually.
MRI?
Sir, MRI
High risk.
when we start from 25 years. High risk,
In
yes,
high
sir.
risk? Yeah, in high
When there is
risk.
a genetic mutation.
Okay, okay. So your patient was T2N0M0. What if the
Yes.
patient was, say, T3N1M0?
T3N1M0, sir, then we have to go for mastectomy, and along with axillary lymph node dissection, and then we have to go for chemotherapy, and depending on the hormonal status, we can give hormonal therapy and radiotherapy if needed.
What type of mastectomy?
Modified radical mastectomy.
Okay. So can you just briefly outline the steps of MRM?
MRM. First, we will go for pre-anesthetic checkup, and then we'll start with anesthesia, general anesthesia with endotracheal intubation. Position of the patient, supine, the arm of the affected side extended and resting on the arm support of the table. Then we go for antiseptic dressing and draping. First, we delineate the lesion that we want to separate, and then we go for the incision. The incision is a transverse elliptical incision, and it will include the nipple areola complex. We incise first, and the plane of incision is between the sub-areolar fat and between the fat of the breast tissue. First, we incise the skin along with the subareolar fat, and then we slowly start raising the skin flaps. First, above we have to raise it up to the clavicle, medially up to the midline, laterally up to the anterior border of latissimus dorsi, and below up to the first quadrant of rectus sheath. Then after this, we start dissecting the breast in the extent as mentioned above. After this, we reach the pectoralis major muscle, and we start retracting the pectoralis major muscle so that we can see the pectoralis minor muscle now, and we either dissect it from its insertion at coracoid process, or we retract it depending upon the procedure that we are following. And during these steps, we have to be very...
Okay, that's it. So what can be the complications of mastectomy?
Complications of mastectomy, there can be hemorrhage, there can be post-op infection, we can injure the axillary vein or artery, we can injure the nerves, and sometimes the intercostobrachial nerves have removed, so the patient needs to be counseled pre-operatively that after the operation she might experience loss of sensation on the inner side of her upper arm.
And when can a patient present with winging of scapula?
If the long thoracic nerve is injured, nerve to serratus anterior.
And when can a patient present with lymphedema of that arm on the side of the operation?
Lymph edema. Sir, if there is excessive post-op fibrosis, then there will be
Now,
difficulty
why
in.
sometimes a patient who has been undergoing MRM and axillary dissection present with lymphedema? I mean, it's a simple reason. What have we removed apart from the breast?
Sir, I don't know. Sir, I don't know the answer.
We have removed the axillary lymph nodes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that is going to cause this lymphedema.
Yes.
Okay. And what can you advise the patient to sort of reduce this lymphedema post-op?
Post-op, she has to mobilize her arm early, and if there is lymphedema, she has to contact her doctor, and then she can use she can raise her arm, or she can use some other device which can help to reduce the edema.
What other device?
So I'm forgetting the name. It's like a pressurized, like the stockings that we used for the legs. It's like a pressurized
Yeah.
stock.
It's that only. So she can either raise her arm above the head or keep the arm raised above the head, or she can use a sleeve or a compression stocking. So that's why I mention this everywhere, that the concept is same. In every chapter, the concept is same throughout the whole medical field. So if you know how to prevent venous edema in the lower limbs, you also know how to prevent edema on the upper limbs. So it's nothing different, or it's nothing difficult, right? So it's simple measurement. I'm asking these because these are common things that we encounter in the surgery OPD, in the surgery practice. So a post-op patient on follow-up, maybe after some weeks, she would come to the surgery OPD and complain of edema and swelling of the affected arm. So in that case, you have to, you know, advise these things to the patient. So these are common problems. These are common things that we're going to face in your internship or in your clinical life. Whether you become a surgeon or not, these things are important to know. Okay, so I think it's 7 o'clock. We have been doing this for an hour, so I don't want to prolong this too much. So let me just check. Some people have written stuff here. Yeah, someone had said implants. I think when I had asked about MRI. So yes, you are right. One of the indication of MRI is a breast with implant. And do you have any other questions, anyone? Or you would like to suggest any case for the next discussion? We would be happy to take that up. Because someone has written Stewart Treenoy syndrome. Yeah, it's Stewart Treves syndrome. Yes, you are sort of in that line when I was asking about lymphedema, I think. Someone has written this. It's basically it's a lymphangiosarcoma, a complication of long-standing lymphedema. Yeah, so how to know fixity in examination? For skin fixity, you can pinch the lump, pinch the skin above the lump. And for fixity to the pectoralis major, you can ask the patient to press on the waist and tighten the pectoralis major. You have to check this by palpating this axillary fold, anterior axillary fold, and then you try to move the lump. So we have discussed these things. I have shown the examination of breast in the video on breast examination in our app. So if you have any doubt, you can please refer to that video. Okay, so any suggestion for the next webinar? Any case that you want us to discuss? And another thing I would like to mention is that Dipannita has done this. This is her first time. This is her first time also, I guess, presenting something in a webinar consisting of so many participants. So we really appreciate her efforts that she has volunteered. We had asked all of our users, our subscribers, and she has readily volunteered this time. So if you subscribe
Thank you, sir.
to, yeah, welcome. So if you subscribe, then you will get this chance to present a case. And if you have observed carefully, at some times she got a little bit nervous. So it's good. The next time she would feel a lot confident, a lot more confident, and in the final exam also, she would feel like that this is again another webinar of Sagipedia going on, and that would definitely boost her confidence a lot. So before finishing off, I would like to ask Dipannita if she is facing any problem or whether she would like to say anything or whatever.
I have been using the Searchipedia app since July, and I have been using it as a supplement to my studies from textbook. And I have been preparing notes, and the notes are really very good and very concise, and they are perfect for reading on the night before the exam. Initially, when I started using the app, there were some issues with the buffering of the videos, but that has been sorted now, and I think it's a very good app for supplementing one's final prof studies. One more thing, since I come from a peripheral medical college, we don't have tuitions there, and in subjects like surgery, medicine, which are very vast, some sort of guidance is needed. So Surgipedia is a very good option for us because we cannot go to tuitions as such and prepare notes. So I think it's a good app.
Okay, thank you, Dipannita. Thank you for your feedback. So
Welcome, sir.
I don't think we have received any communication regarding the next webinar of the topic. So we would try to conduct another webinar in 2 weeks, and I would like someone else to present the case, and we would proceed as it was done today. So thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you everyone for participating. Those who have become the part of the audience, I hope you got some benefits out of this webinar and you have understood how to present a case in the final exam. So bye everyone. We'll see you soon. Thank you.